mosquito or a monstrous flat blotchy Genoese spider. When I had let the evening light into her room, master, mistress, and la bella Carolina entered. Then we looked round at all the pictures, and I went forward again into another room. Mistress secretly had great fear of meeting with the likeness of that face. We all had, but there was no such thing. The Madonna and Bambino, San Francisco, San Sebastiano, Venus, Santa Catarina, angels, brigands, friars, temples at sunset, battles, white horses, forests, apostles, Doge, all my old acquaintances many times repeated, yes. Dark handsome man in black, reserved in secret, with black hair and grey moustache, looking fixedly at mistress out of darkness? No. At last we got through all the rooms and all the pictures, and came out into the gardens. They were pretty well kept, being rented by a gardener, and were large and shady. In one place there was a rustic theatre, open to the sky, the stage a green slope, the coulisses, 3 entrances upon a side, sweet-smelling leafy screens. Mistress moved her bright eyes, even there, as if she looked to see the face come in upon the scene. But all was well. "Now, Clara," master said in a low voice, "you see that it is nothing. You are happy." Mistress was much encouraged. She soon accustomed herself to that grim palazzo, and would sing and play the harp, and copy the old pictures, and stroll with master under the green trees and vines all day. She was beautiful. He was happy. He would laugh and say to me, mounting his horse for his morning ride before the heat, "All goes well, Baptista." "Yes, signore, thank God, very well." We kept no company. I took la bella to the Duomo and Annunziata, to the cafe, to the opera, to the village festa, to the public garden, to the day theatre, to the marionetti. The pretty little one was charmed with all she saw. She learned Italian. Heavens, miraculously! Was mistress quite forgetful of that dream? I asked Carolina sometimes. Nearly, said la bella, almost. It was wearing out. One day master received a letter, and called me. "Baptista!" "Signore?" "A gentleman who is presented to me will dine here to-day. He is called the Signor Dellombra. Let me dine like a prince." It was an odd name. I did not know that name. But there had been many noblemen and gentlemen pursued by Austria on political suspicions lately, and some names had changed. Perhaps this was one. Altro! Dellombra was as good a name to me as another. When the Signor Dellombra came to dinner, said the Genoese courier, in the low voice, into which he had subsided once before, I showed him into the reception-room, the great sala of the old palazzo. Master received him with cordiality, and presented him to mistress. As she rose, her face changed, she gave a cry, and fell upon the marble floor. Then I turned my head to the Signor Dellombra, and saw that he was dressed in black, and had a reserved and secret air, and was a dark, remarkable-looking man, with black hair and a grey moustache. Master raised mistress in his arms, and carried her to her own room, where I sent la bella Carolina straight. La bella told me afterwards that mistress was nearly terrified to death, and that she wandered in her mind about her dream all night. Master was vexed and anxious, almost angry, and yet full of solicitude. The Signor Dellombra was a courtly gentleman, and spoke with great respect and sympathy of mistress's being so ill. The African wind had been blowing for some days. They had told him at his hotel, the Maltese Cross, and he knew that it was often hurtful. He hoped the beautiful lady would recover soon. He begged permission to retire, and to renew his visit when he should have the happiness of hearing that she was better. Master would not allow of this, and they dined alone. He withdrew early. Next day he called at the gate, on horseback, to inquire for mistress. He did so 2 or 3 times in that week. What I observed myself, and what la bella Carolina told me, united to explain to me that master had now set his mind on curing mistress of her fanciful terror. He was all kindness, but he was sensible and firm. He reasoned with her, that to encourage such fancies was to invite melancholy, if not madness; that it rested with herself to be herself; that if she once resisted her strange weakness so successfully as to receive the Signor Dellombra as an English lady would receive any other guest, it was forever conquered. To make an end, the Signore came again, and mistress received him without marked distress, though with constraint and apprehension still, and the evening passed serenely. Master was so delighted with this change, and so anxious to confirm it, that the Signor Dellombra became a constant guest. He was accomplished in pictures, books, and music, and his society in any grim palazzo would have been welcome. I used to notice, many times, that mistress was not quite recovered. She would cast down her eyes and droop her head before the Signor Dellombra, or would look at him with a terrified and fascinated glance, as if his presence had some evil influence or power upon her. Turning for her to him, I used to see him in the shaded gardens, or the large half-lighted sala, looking, as I might say, fixedly upon her out of darkness. But truly I had not forgotten La bella Carolina's words, describing the face in the dream. After his second visit I heard master say, "Now see, my dear Clara, it's over. Dellombra has come and gone, and your apprehension is broken like glass." "Will he ever come again?" asked mistress. "Again? Why surely, over and over again. Are you cold?" She shivered. "No, dear, but he terrifies me. Are you sure that he need come again?" "The surer for the question, Clara," replied master, cheerfully. But he was very hopeful of her complete recovery now, and grew more and more so every day. She was beautiful. He was happy. "All goes well, Baptista?" he would say to me again. "Yes, signore, thank God, very well." "We were all," said the Genoese courier, constraining himself to speak a little louder, "we were all at Rome for the Carnival. I had been out all day with a Sicilian, a friend of mine, and a courier who was there with an English family. As I returned at night to our hotel, I met the little Carolina, who never stirred from home alone, running distractedly along the Corso. 'Carolina, what's the matter?' 'Oh, Baptista! Oh, for the Lord's sake, where is my mistress?' 'Mistress, Carolina?' 'Gone since morning; told me when master went out on his day's journey not to call her, for she was tired with not resting in the night, having been in pain, and would lie in bed until the evening, then get up refreshed. She is gone! She is gone! Master has come back, broken down the door, and she is gone! My beautiful, my good, my innocent mistress!' The pretty little one so cried and raved, and tore herself that I could not have held her, but for her swooning on my arm as if she had been shot. Master came up, in manner, face, or voice, no more the master that I knew was he. He took me. I laid the little one upon her bed in the hotel, and left her with the chamberwoman, in a carriage, furiously through the darkness, across the desolate Campagna. When it was day, and we stopped at a miserable post-house, all the horses had been hired 12 hours ago, and sent away in different directions. Mark me, by the Signor Dellombra, who had passed there in a carriage, with a frightened English lady crouching in one corner. I never heard, said the Genoese courier, drawing a long breath, that she was ever traced beyond that spot. All I know is that she vanished into infamous oblivion, with the dreaded face beside her that she had seen in her dream. "What do you call that?" said the German courier, triumphantly. "Ghosts? There are no ghosts there. What do you call this, that I am going to tell you? Ghosts! There are no ghosts here." "I took an engagement once," pursued the German courier, "with an English gentleman, elderly and a bachelor, to travel through my country, my fatherland. He was a merchant who traded with my country and knew the language, but who had never been there since he was a boy, as I judge, some 60 years before. His name was James, and he had a twin brother John, also a bachelor. Between these brothers there was a great affection. They were in business together, at Goodman's Fields, but they did not live together. Mr. James dwelt in Poland Street, turning out of Oxford Street, London. Mr. John resided by Epping Forest. Mr. James and I were to start for Germany in about a week. The exact day depended on business. Mr. John came to Poland Street, where I was staying in the house, to pass that week with Mr. James. But, he said to his brother on the second day, 'I don't feel very well, James. That's not much the matter with me, but I think I am a little gouty. I'll go home and put myself under the care of my old housekeeper, who understands my ways. If I get quite better, I'll come back and see you before you go. If I don't feel well enough to resume my visit where I leave it off, why, you will come and see me before you go.' Mr. James, of course, said he would, and they shook hands, both hands as they always did, and Mr. John ordered out of his old-fashioned chariot and rumbled home. It was on the second night after that, that is to say the fourth in the week, when I was awoke out of my sound sleep by Mr. James coming into my bedroom in his flannel gown, with a lighted candle. He sat upon the side of my bed, and looking at me, said, 'Wilhelm, I have reason to think I have got some strange illness upon me.' I then perceived that there was a very unusual expression in his face. 'Wilhelm,' said he, 'I am not afraid or ashamed to tell you that I might be afraid or ashamed to tell another man. You come from a sensible country, where my mysterious things are inquired into, and are not settled to have been weighed and measured, or to have been unweighable and unmeasurable, or in either case to have been completely disposed of for all time, ever so many years ago. I have just now seen the phantom of my brother.' I confess," said the German courier, "that it gave me a little tingling of the blood to hear it. "I have just now seen," Mr. James repeated, looking full at me that I might see how collected he was, "the phantom of my brother John. I was sitting up in bed, unable to sleep, when he came into my room, in a white dress, and regarding me earnestly, passed up to the end of the room, glanced at some papers on my writing desk, turned, and still looking earnestly at me as it passed the bed, went out the door. Now, I am not in the least mad, and am not in the least disposed to invest that phantom with any external existence out of myself. I think it is a warning to me that I am ill. I think I had better be bled.